While we sleep, the guardians of the night take to the streets, having said goodbye to those they love. Each other knowing they may never say these words again. They face the evil that we run from. They dedicate their lives to those that would hate them because they wear the badge. They wear the badge not for the glory or recognition, but for the passion to help others. This is the LEO First Podcast. We'll talk to the men and women in law enforcement, those that have retired, those that keep the prisons secure, and anyone who's impacted by law enforcement. We'll peel back the curtain, and you'll get the real stories, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Every law enforcement officer has a story to tell. Get ready to hear from the men and women who put their lives on the line every day for their communities and their country. Welcome to the LEO First Podcast. Now, here's your host, Michael Laidler.
Hey everybody, it's Michael Laidler, the host of the LEO First Podcast, and we're bringing another amazing episode tonight. It's so amazing that our guest, she was giving her introduction before we even started. That's how excited we are to give you some of this information tonight, guys. I can tell you based on her energy, with or without coffee, she is going to get you guys excited. She's going to get you guys involved, and we're just going to have an amazing show tonight. One of the cool parts about this show is that we're all about developing law enforcement. We're all about humanizing the badge, letting people know that, you know what, real people, but at the same time, letting fellow officers know that it's okay to have a identity outside of your uniform. And that's what we're really promoting, guys. We're promoting the industry. We're promoting the well-being, the leadership, everything that happens, because at the end of the day, whether you're in a uniform right now, you're going to have to get out of that uniform. You're going to have to retire, resign, transfer, whatever it might be. And we want to make sure you know it's okay. Same thing for people that are not in law enforcement. We want you to see us as people, because sometimes you see that uniform and you forget there's a story within it. And tonight we're going to hear that story specifically from Lyndsay Taylor. Lyndsay, as we start this show out, what do you want the viewers to know about you?
Oh, that's a tough question. I mean, I guess I want them to know, besides the fact that I'm a police officer, we all have families, we all have things we have to do outside of police work, and that it's not just being a police officer. You know, I'm a daughter, you know, I'm a sister, I'm somebody's something, and we are bigger than just the badge. We wear the badge. It's a heavy badge to wear sometimes. And I don't think a lot of people understand how significant that is on people, and that what kind of toll that weighs on people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So when you say heavy badge, how's the, in your time, you have now 5 years in, 2 years full time. How's the badge been heavy in your time in law enforcement?
It's been heavy, just a lot of stuff, you know, outside of like how big COVID was and how much of a thing that was. And I wasn't full time then, but I was still working 4 places part time. So you have to consider how many people you're interacting with, the scaredness of people. I think the weight of it is mental health. I think that's a really big weight. And I think that not a lot of people know how to deal with mental health, and specifically, you know, homelessness, drug addiction, things of that nature. It's really hard to help people when they don't want to be helped, you know, especially mental health. You can't make people go get help, and you can't make them want. So you're dealing with the same people over and over and over again. I think that's pretty heavy stuff with mental health, stuff with children. You know, it's not like we're just locking people up and we want to, you know, put people in jail, and we want to hurt people, and we want to put handcuffs on people. It's not even that. I think 5% of my time is spent doing things of that nature. 95% of my time is making sure my community's safe, making sure people, you know, see that we're out there, we're doing our job, we're doing traffic stops, we're making sure, you know, people's houses are okay when they're on vacation. It's a lot bigger than the cuffs. You know, we do a lot more. And when I first started, I thought it was going to be a lot easier than it is. And it's truthfully not an easy job. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you go in and you're It's not. You go in and you're like, oh yeah, we're gonna go arrest people and we're gonna sit around and just like wait for calls. And it's not even like that at all. You're not sitting around waiting for calls 24/7. You have other things to do besides that.
So for you, you said you held 4 part-time law enforcement jobs at once. There had to be some driving force that got you in. Like, how did you get from graduating high school, obviously going to academy somewhere before all this, to getting to 4 law enforcement? Like, how did that work?
So I went to high school. I graduated. I went to Temple University for 7 years, and don't come at me, people. I changed my major a couple times. I really truthfully didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was going to pharmacy, like pre-pharmacy track, and I decided I didn't want to do that. I graduated with an adult and organizational development degree, which is like an adult communication degree, which I use every day. It's such a vast degree that I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was going to go into pharmacy sales, and I just wasn't happy with what I was doing. My partner at the time was a police officer, and he kind of like nudged me to go, and unfortunately we did not continue on, but that's nor here nor there. But he was a cop, and then I was like, I'm gonna go. My parents fully supported me. I'm not happy at first. My mom was not really happy. So then I went to the academy, and then once I was in the academy, I was doing ride-alongs in South Coatesville Police Department while I was there. And then I graduated, and then I started at Kennett Square Borough, and then I went to South Coatesville. And then once I started working there, I got hired another place, and I started working 2. And then I got another job, and then I got the full-time job. I was working part-time there. So I was working all these places.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was fun. You're learning all this stuff. And, you know, I didn't work at all of them. I was working 2 years with 2 jobs. And then I was working, hold on. No, you're not having that.
No, you're good.
He's a brat. Anywho.
And if everybody, if somebody's only listening to the audio, she's talking to the dog, not to the kids. She's
yes.
Just so y'all know. Yeah, if you're watching the video,
is...
you can see her moving around. But if you're listening just to audio, it ain't her just randomly kicking the kids out and telling them to go to the.
That's right.
She talked to the dogs, which are very beautiful looking dogs. It's just I tell her we welcome all guests, but she's trying to keep them out of pocket. So.
Oh yeah, he's mad because he wants something. So yeah, so I was working at a bunch of places, and I just loved it. I mean, it's exciting when you're young and you're new and you haven't experienced everything yet. So everything is new and fresh, like your first DUI, your first, drug arrest, your first, anything. And I was lucky I worked in an area I got to learn Spanish and learn how to talk to people in Spanish. And it helps me to this day, actually.
Yeah, just being bilingual. I mean, it's I started in 2005, and we had a few. I studied Spanish in college, so it did help the transition because we had a few areas in Tallahassee that was dominantly Spanish speaking, and the fact that I knew even a little bit made a world of a difference.
It's very helpful sometimes when you're trying to talk to somebody who doesn't understand what you're saying, and you don't have to use Google Translate or call into dispatch and get someone who's bilingual, or call somebody. It's kind of helpful to be able to get through a traffic stop knowing some Spanish. So I'm grateful for that.
How did you keep up with 4 jobs at once? Like all of us in law enforcement, we have a hard time with one. You kept up with 4. Like, how did you do that? Like, how did you did you have a calendar? Did you just write this down on your hand? Like, how did you manage your schedule?
So I had a calendar. So I put everything in that calendar. So you're including court, training, but I got to pick and choose because I was part-time. I gave one department full reign of what to do with my schedule, and then the other ones kind of fit me in as they needed. The one department is so small that I could kind of make my own schedule. So it just really depended on the week, honestly, and what they needed. And I think I pretty much worked every day of the month except for 3 or 4 days, which is absolutely insane. Yeah, it especially with overtime, or there's something going on, or you got held up, or you're at court, and every court's different. It's hard. Different policies, different uniforms. I felt like I was living out of my car sometimes. It was nuts.
And I want the viewers to understand, this is reality. Some people see law enforcement and they say, oh, you get one job, that's your career for 25 years. But sometimes it's not like that. And Lyndsay's explaining you guys like some of you that have 2 and 3 jobs that's not law enforcement, or let's say you're an officer somewhere or a deputy, whatever your role might be, and you have off-duty details. Think about Lyndsay's situation for several years. She actually manages 3 agencies, small or big. And during that time, you had to kind of run into a little bit of burnout or stress, because 3 to 4 days off in law enforcement per month is stressful. So how did you, Lyndsay Taylor, manage your stress?
So, I mean, I was younger then. I mean, actually, I'll backtrack. I was like one of the older people like in my academy, so I felt like I was a little bit more mature. Um, but since you're like older and new and you're like a rookie, I didn't really know how to like manage what I was doing at the time. So I was also still working at Acme as like a pharmacy technician for a little bit, probably my first 2 years. So I had 2 jobs and then Acme, and then I got a third job, which gave me benefits. So I dropped Acme, and I kind of like the calendar helps. In 2021, so I started as a police officer in 2019. I found the gym, and that's what really, really, really helped me emotionally, mentally, physically. It's hard. It's hard to manage stress when you don't know exactly what the stress is because you're so new. So I feel like once you're like your first year and a half to 2 years in, you're kind of figuring some stuff out. And I still don't know everything, obviously, and you never know everything. You're still learning every single day. But I finally got into like a routine and like a rhythm, and I kind of figured out how to deal with it. But, you know, I was still young at the time, and I had to like figure that out for myself.
Well, I can tell you're not in your 60s or 70s, so you're not very old either. So I will tell you, hey, folks, Lyndsay's. I can tell you, if you're watching the video once again, you can tell she's not 60 or 70. So she keeps saying older. Just that I want to put an asterisk, guys. I'm not going to reveal the age. I don't know the exact age, but I'm telling you guys, it's less than 40. So all of us, well, I'm not even older than 40, but I mean, it's she's not like in her 60s or 70s. So let's just clarify. So for you, I like the fact that you realize that it took you about 18 months to kind of get a rhythm, a feeling, and an understanding of your job. If you were able to look at Academy Lyndsay and you were setting up a program for Academy Lyndsay to start preparing, because you probably just had to figure it out on your own. Like you probably didn't have like a playbook on how to finally, you probably like, oh, you know what? Maybe I need to get a calendar. Maybe I need to eat right. Maybe I need to work out. What would you start telling Lyndsay, rookie Lyndsay, Academy Lyndsay, if you had a chance to go mentor her right now?
What you were doing before the academy to get into the academy, keep doing that. Keep going to the gym. Keep running. Keep doing the things that you were doing to get into the academy. The mindset, you know, the fear of, you know, having to do PT all the time, keeping up with running. All these people are like, you know, not keeping up with the gym, and they're struggling. I can see it. I see a ton of cops struggling right now to keep up. So if you keep doing what the academy was making you do, and then, you know, get in a diet, get in nutrition, like stop eating. Like I know the whole thing about like, you know, cops eating donuts, kind of joking around and stuff like that. Don't eat donuts. Don't eat crap. You got to get into you know, a nutrition thing. You need to meal prep. Make sure you have your lunch. Don't eat out all the time. Like it's nice once in a while, but like if you are not on a routine, like we switch our schedule. So I'm 2 weeks a days, 2 weeks a nights.
Yeah.
I do different stuff for different shifts. You got to prepare for that. Like 2:00 in the morning, don't be eating candy and stuff like that. You know, I would tell anybody who's going into the academy or they're a rookie right now, keep up with your gym schedule, keep up with family and friends, talk to other people who are law enforcement, find a role model, find somebody. I met Autumn Schmidt. She's a female speaker. She used to be an LEO herself. She still is part-time, and she went through a lot of stuff, and through her trials and tribulations, she had to get out of full-time, and I connected with her. She came and did a speaking what I want to say last 2022. So I guess it was November we did it. I had 50 girls come and sit in, and we did like a female mindset type of thing. And, pick a taekwondo, pick a self-defense type of thing that you like to do. Besides, you need to be working out, running, and then doing some kind of self-defense class, especially for females. If you don't know how to fight, you better well get into one of those classes. Boxing, martial arts, stuff like that.
So for you, what made you realize about the self-defense? Was it autumn, or was it just something that you picked up over time?
A little bit of both. After a while, because I'm thinking to myself, what am I like? I don't know if anybody else does this, and I think that you should. And I was told this a long time ago when I was a baby cop. Think about what you're gonna do when you're on your way to the call. What if this happens? What if that happens? And I think to myself, if this dude, not all the time when you're getting dispatched to a call is that the reality of the call, right? So I got called to a call, and it came out a little bit differently than it turned out to be, and it was something that wasn't expected out of me and my partner, and it could have turned out not very well for both of us, but thankfully it did. I won't go into any details, but I'm a small person. A lot of guys are way bigger than me.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to have a presence, and you don't know how to kind of be like no BS type of person, you don't know how to fight, you don't know what to do in certain situations, you need to be practicing that. And I tried scenario in my head, like, okay, well, if this happens, what am I going to be doing? If that happens, what am I going to be doing? Talk to your partner throughout your shift, like on night shift, 3 a.m. go do some dry firing, go do some drills, stuff like that. It took me a while, and I think because I was working so much, I wasn't thinking about these things, and I wasn't thinking about what's going to happen if this happens. Don't be complacent. Don't go, well, the last time they were like this, or whatever. And I think that a lot of young cops are so worried about what they're doing and focusing on making sure they're getting all the steps down and doing what they need to do. Some departments are accredited, like mine is, so we have extra stuff that we have to do, certain paperwork we have to do. They're so focused on that, they're not taking in other things.
Yeah. And I will ask, because I've noticed that as we've been speaking, you already have a strong mindset. So I don't think you had to develop one when you got into law enforcement. Obviously, you continue to grow it. Where did your mindset come from prior to law enforcement?
I think I've kind of always been like that. I'm a twin. I have a sister, and we're twins. Obviously, I just said that. But and I think from like a young age, I was always kind of like the protective sister. And I've just always been a little bit more aggressive. So I just feel like, my dad kind of instilled in us like the take no BS type of stuff.
Yeah, and when you start looking at it that way, I think it's important for our viewers to understand that Lyndsay said it earlier, the mindset you had coming into law enforcement, especially if it was strong, don't lose it. But if you didn't have that, maybe you might want to start looking how to build that up, because when you start hitting these calls, you got to start having that self-talk. We used to call it self-talk back in the day. I don't know if they still call it now, but you're going over scenarios in your head like, well, I know they were compliant the last 7 times we were there, but what if this time they have a knife? What if this time they've been drinking? What if this time they're under the influence? So I could definitely see where your mindset is when you're going into these different scenarios. So as you have continued to grow in the last couple of years, you go from part-time to full-time. Have you seen a change in your lifestyle as well? Because now you have at least a fairly decent schedule that you can kind of plan ahead.
Yeah, I love being full-time. I think that it's been helpful because I have 2 weeks off a month. So I have a routine where depending on my shift, I do my workout before night shift. I try to get all of my energy out, like any like nervous or excited energy out, because that's not going to help you when you're going into night shift. You need to have a clear mind. Whatever helps you. I go to the gym. All of my coworkers will tell you this. I'm very hyper. I'm very excited. I'm a go-getter.
Good.
I'm pulling traffic stops. I'm talking to people. I'm getting in and out of stuff. I'm not going to sit in my car for 12 hours. Like, I got to get out. I'll go walk some trails. I'll walk businesses. Whatever gets you into the mindset to be able to go do the work and go home. I work out before I go into work. That's just the thing that I do.
Mm-hmm.
I have a full routine. I'm at work an hour before my shift. I make sure everything is ready and set. I'm giving myself time to decompress from the gym, get ready for my night. You know, we all eat together as a family at my work. We do everything together pretty much, which we're lucky. But working out for me is a thing, and getting a routine down, and you know, having your food ready, making sure your bag's ready. I have a lot of snacks in my bag just in case we get, you know, we're outside. Make sure you have water. And yes, I'm hyper. I drink a lot of coffee. I drink the energy drinks. Don't be drinking 2 or 3 energy drinks, you know, a shift.
Yeah, it's like it just takes away from it.
Well, someone in my old department said to me, think about this. If you get involved in something and you drank 2 energy drinks and you don't have a clear mind and you're shaky and you're excited and you make a mistake, or, you know, they question what you're doing and why you did it that way. I think about it like this. You get so excited. You're in a pursuit. You're in this, you're in that. I don't want to get tunnel vision. I don't want to be so excited that I'm forgetting steps, forgetting things to do. And I won't forget that because they ingrained it in me. And they used to make fun of me saying, you know, 1 energy drink a shift, which I would never drink more than 1. But you know, I'm so excitable that they were joking around, but they're being serious too at the same time. You know, think about what you can and cannot tolerate on your shift. Like if you can't drink all that coffee, don't. If you need to drink water, or you need to do this or you need to do that to keep yourself occupied, do it.
Yeah, because if you overdo it, like you said, you lose that focus. You know, I never thought about that. I mean, I don't drink coffee or energy drinks myself, but I when I have had 1 or 2 at some point randomly, I did feel the spark of energy, and sometimes it was actually harder to focus if I had like a espresso or like a, what is it called, a frappuccino, and I would have one. I really don't drink these things, so and everything I drink has to be cold. Like I don't like the hot coffee. I don't do none of that. But you're right. I've had it to where my body's not used to processing it. So I would start doing something and I would be so hyper that I would be forgetting steps, like you said. So you're right. You have to be able to manage your energy as well. Like you want it to be elevated, but not to a point to where you can't think straight, because then you start making bad decisions.
Correct. And I've caught myself sometimes where I'm like so excited that it's like, woo, this is really exciting. Like, you know, my first pursuit, I didn't even think about my energy because I was so focused on the job that I was doing, which is good for me because I have, you know, I probably have ADD and ADHD. But I was excited because I was like really proud of how well I did. But and it's true, when you're in that situation, you revert back to your training. Like I was never in a pursuit before. I wasn't even like in a car with somebody. I was by myself. You know what I mean? So my first time I was like, holy crap, they were not wrong when you like revert back to that training. Like, and it's not a joke. Like all these people who tell you certain stuff, like listen to them. You may not want to listen to everything that they say, but do listen to the people who do the job, like who do the work, who you look up to as a role model. Like pick somebody and follow what they do. Don't do everything that they do, but see what you like. I take a piece from everybody. I've had multiple FTOs, multiple people. I've worked with tons of people, you know, in different parts of the county because of all the jobs that I've worked, and then like networking and like hanging out, you know, and going to events and stuff like that. Listen to what some people have to say to you. You may not like the criticism and you may not like everything that they do or say, but think about it. I always revert back to certain people who kind of give me a hard time sometimes, but I revert back to that because it's true. It really is. You revert back to the training and what you do. So whatever you do repetitively, you're going to go back on that just as instinct.
So for you, with some of this training, now, like I said, you have 5 years in, so between 4 agencies, I know you got a lot of in-service training because everybody had a slightly different way of doing it. Did you find yourself more like leaning towards certain departments, like in your 5 years so far, like narcotics or motors or canine or SWAT? Between all these things, like what are you finding yourself to be more attracted to?
Interesting. Actually, I very much like traffic. I would love to be a traffic unit. There's a one guy on, I think it's, I'm trying to remember now. He's like a really popular sheriff, and his one guy does the like Fridays where they like videotape him doing different traffic stops with people, and it's hilarious because of the way that they do it. I would love to be a traffic unit. I'm also interested in canine, but my department right now, they did have canines back in the day. They got rid of the canine unit. Right now, the county that I'm in, we don't have a lot of canines, and I know all this stuff going on with like, possibly marijuana becoming legalized in Pennsylvania at some point. Right now, it's not. So the dogs that are out there might have to be retired early if that does happen. We are working on a lot of stuff. My department has grown a lot since I started. So I used to be like low man, and now I'm like one of the, more senior officers, which is crazy to think. I just started almost, full time 2 years ago, but we are seeing a lot of growth. So we're working on some stuff. I'm hoping they make a traffic unit. I would be very, very interested in doing that. It's just something that I like to do, very much so. The community relations I'm really into. That's one of my major big ones. I'm in charge of all the HOA stuff right now. So could I do all of them? I would love to do every single one and stick my toe in and have experience and all of that. But our department is so small that we don't have all of that type of stuff. We have different stuff that we do. We're really big on the community. We do a lot of community stuff. Very, very big into that. Other than that, I mean, we all have our regular patrol functions, and we all kind of have very similar training. We have a couple of corporals who do most of the stuff, but we get pretty much any training we were interested in doing. I just finished a ride a couple weeks ago, so that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
So we get a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So and one thing we talked about in the green room before we started this, and it involves a lot of the community relations, is social media. And some organizations, yours won't, because you guys got other things like traffic, canine that you got to build towards. But some agency they actually have now, or they're starting to incorporate social media officers, people that monitor social media, and it's for not just not for reaction, but for proactivity. I had the chief of Albany, Oregon, Marsha Harnden, on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, and her agency, they're actually staffed at like almost 98%. A lot of it has come from social media. They make TikToks. They're active on IG. They're active on Facebook. You're starting to push that as well. And I know we kind of talked about maybe you taking over your side. What are you seeing as far as the trends go, and the feedback you're getting when you see agencies with strong social media?
I think it's actually really interesting. And I think that some agencies are a little nervous to be doing stuff on Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that, because, if you're getting negative comments, or there's, back and forth, people fighting and things like that. I think it's hard because, there's, we're not trying to violate people's rights, obviously. Right. But I'm seeing a lot of like positive, interesting things. There's one department, I think it's Steel. Oh my God. They're so funny. They like will post about people who like have warrants, and like they post about like all these arrests they get, or they post all this funny stuff, and it's hilarious because people like love to hate them, but you can't hate them because they're like getting all these bad guys. Like they'll post like, hey, we saw you steal from here, like come, you got warrants, come turn yourself in, or like, and then like the dudes will comment back on Facebook or Instagram, and they don't realize like all this stuff is tracked, like all these things, like their locations and their Instagrams. Like I solved, someone ran in front of my sergeants in an old department. I found their Instagram, and I was like, bing, bang, boom. Here's the motorcycle he was riding. Got him. Like stuff like that. It's very interesting. And I think there's a lot that you can do on TikTok and Instagram. Positive things. There are also negatives to it, but I think that the more archaic old school stuff is kind of going away, and this new school policing, social media, community relations, I think that a lot more people can be reached through social media. And I think that there's a lot to do and a lot to say, but you have to figure out what kind of content you want, what kind of content you can do. There's a lot of stuff that police departments do that no one knows about. No one sees it. No one hears about it.
Correct.
Our department will post pictures, like people will come in and visit us. We'll do like a station tour. I'll go out to the community and we'll take pictures. I encourage people to send us the pictures if they want to. But you have to expect there's going to be some negative as well. And I feel like that's the kind of tit for tat kind of thing we're worried about, where like we're trying to do good, but there's the trolls, there's the people out there on social media who are only there to make it harder for us when we're trying to do something good. So there's a lot that you can do. You can do some trainings on there. I do a monthly, I'm in charge of the HOAs in our community. And I send out a monthly email. I remind people about certain events that are going on, certain safety things. Like I just did like a back to school email. I remind them that I do tours. I remind them of a lot of stuff that goes on. Over the summer, I'll remind them about, water safety, because we have a huge state park in our department area. It just really depends. Social media is king. That's right now, that is the king. And I think that if you don't have a social media presence, maybe it's time to start, because that is what everybody's on right now. Instagram and TikTok are very, very large. And I think that it would be positive to see what we do on social media, especially TikTok.
How do you feel? How do you feel like TikTok and IG and X and LinkedIn, Facebook is affecting and impacting recruitment and retention?
Oh, I think right now we have a very, very scary time where there is not a lot of police officers. There is not people who want to go into the academy. I'm seeing the academy that I went to, they were like having a hard time getting people. Like during COVID, the recruits that were in the academy did not get the academy that I got. And these are the people who were getting hired now. Right now, it's the cream of the crop. Like the two new people that we got hired full time, they didn't understand that I had to work for 2-3 years, all these jobs. Like you can get any job you want right now because of the lack of police officers. And then the baby boomers, who are all the older guys, they're all retiring.
Yeah. So
now it's all new police officers. And now it's me, who has only 2 years full-time experience, 5 years on total as one of the senior officers. So you're having a younger police department. And I think that social media is so huge right now. We almost need to have it. I think it's good and it's bad. You see the bad, you see the good. You see parts of body cameras, but you don't see the cop holding their head down after, a really bad car accident, and they're so disturbed by what they saw. You don't see the aftermath. You just see what you're given. And people are so mistaken by these things, and their the interpretation over social media is almost scary. You're only seeing bits and snippets and parts. You didn't see the full 20, 30, 40-minute body camera. I had a body camera for an hour and a half one time, and certain people are only seeing certain parts of it, because how are you going to sit there for 2 hours and watch 17 officers' body cameras 24/7? You can't. It's impossible. You're only seeing what you're seeing. You didn't see the whole thing. You didn't talk to the police officer. You have no idea. You have no clue. And that's the scary part.
So it's interesting. So in my time before I left the police officer, or being a police officer, we didn't get body cams. We were just getting car cameras. So I've seen a lot of folks with body cams now. I can personally say I've never worn one. So I don't understand. Well, I can't say if I've experienced it. I understand the concept and the theory. And I do think there's a place, especially if you're doing the right thing. I have had video get me out of trouble before. Then specifically, there was a situation where I was trying to stop a vehicle and the guy took off, and we had a no pursuit policy, at least for just regular traffic stops. So he turned one corner, and you could see on the video, I hadn't even got back in my car. And by the time I drove forward, he had crashed at the next intersection. So yeah, like nobody got hurt, which was good, but it was like a legit car crash. Like both cars were like totaled. So
That's
one of the
horrible.
very first things they did, when I say did, like the internal affairs, is they looked, say, let's pull its video. And the video actually saved me, because they were like, wait, no. He was in the car when all this happened. He wasn't even driving around. So nowadays, as we've gone forward with the body cams, you're right. It's helping more, I think, than it's not, but it's also giving people more opportunity to kind of see what we're going through. So you get to see kind of the picture if all of the video is shown. But if you see a clip of it, like on YouTube, you're probably not going to see everything. So when you see some of these videos that are not being fully shown, like, what kind of perspective are you having on some of the things that you've been seeing, like through the body cams on social media?
I'm seeing pretty much the action part and not the before and not the after. And you're not seeing, sometimes you're not even seeing the officer approaching. You're not even seeing, any after effects. You're not seeing, for example, I had a dude who was arrested. I was transporting him to the prison, and he was telling me all the ways he was going to kill me and hurt me. You're not seeing the dude saying to a 20-something-year-old police officer that he's going to rape and kill her the next time he sees her. You're not seeing, a police officer crying. You're not seeing, what we're doing in the ambulance. You're not seeing like the mental health stuff that we do on, how we're helping these people. You're only seeing the action. You're only seeing whoever clips that video. You're only seeing what they clipped. You're not seeing the entire thing. If you want to sit down and you want to sit there and talk about what this police officer did and what that police officer did, why don't you sit for the whole 24 hours and watch their entire shift from start to finish, and you tell me what's what? It makes me as an officer, and especially as a female and a minority right now, you don't even know, you don't know me, I don't know you. You're only given 10 minutes of maybe a 2-hour ordeal. You're only given so much time. And I think that if you want to have a perspective on it, maybe you should watch the entire body camera.
So,
and I started with body cameras.
Yeah. So based on what I'm hearing is that they've experienced this already.
Oh yeah, I've had someone tell my chief and my corporal that I did this, and this, and they watch the body camera and they're like, she did absolutely none of that. This guy, I pulled him over. He's mouthing off the millisecond I get there. He's freaking out on me, screaming, telling me, I'm this, that, and the third. And he's going to drive off. And I'm like, go ahead, dude, drive off, go for it. You know what I mean? Like, he's trying to say like I was doing things that I wasn't. And he went to my corporal, he went to my chief, and he showed his true colors just by his behavior with them. But after the stop, he went over to the department and was talking to my chief. And my chief watched the body camera and he's like, she didn't do any of that whatsoever. So
I know after a call like this or a call like that, obviously your chief tells you, the corporate tells you, whoever reports it back to you. And this is the other side of law enforcement. This is the where we're people. So what kind of feelings did that create for you when you heard that? Now, obviously the chief took care of you. He didn't take this guy's side, but the fact that you did everything right and the public is pushing back, how does that make you feel?
I almost want to laugh. I'm so, if I'm secure in myself and I'm secure as the officer that I am, I know I didn't do anything wrong. It makes me laugh because some people just have straight up no idea. They have no clue. I don't even want to say it makes me angry. I think it makes me sad. It makes me sad that as a human being, you can go to someone's boss. Like that would be like me as like a regular person going up to a random person's boss. And after I got a coffee from them, like, oh, this person, like, they said this, and this, and they didn't do my coffee order right. And how would I feel like that person wouldn't have anything to say because there was no body camera to protect them. You could rewind the tapes back in the place, but you have no idea what was said because it was only between me and the other person. So it's almost like, dude, you're trying to get someone in trouble who's just doing their job, just doing their job. I could see if I actually did something, but I didn't. And that's what's hard, and it's hard because you're kind of damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You want to do your job, and we can't live like that. You can't live as a police officer going, I want to do my job, but I'm afraid to do my job because of A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You can't live like that. You can't be a police officer like that. And if I went into work, say I was working at Starbucks every day and the same dude's coming in and he keeps, saying something to my boss and I'm not even doing anything. And what if I got fired for what?
It's happened. It's happened to I mean, body cams help out, but you're right. There's been situations before body cams, or let's say an agency just doesn't have for some reason. Maybe they didn't get the grant or whatever. It could happen if the right person said something.
Mm-hmm. And then I imagine, what if this police officer was more of a minority than I am? Then what happens? It makes me sick.
Or not, or doesn't have the strong, because you have a strong mindset. Let's take this person that, let's say, is having a bad day. Let's say their kid is sick, or they got in a fight with their spouse, or something happened to their dog, or something happened. Now they have this fictitious complaint that goes against them. Now what goes on with their mind? And then they have to go to a call after that.
Yep. And it's happened. Can you imagine you just had this person say something to your chief and then you're talked to about it and then you didn't do anything wrong and then nothing happened, but what makes you, different from anybody else where, you have feelings? I'd be pretty upset. And I think it was probably during the day when this all happened. And I was just kind of I shrugged it off because I'm just I got stuff to do. You know what I mean? And I never thought about it again till I saw him again and I did him a solid. And now he waits me every day, So it's just funny because you never know who that person is, and some people love to hate until they need you, and we're needed 24/7, 365, rain, shine, holiday, your birthday, your mom's birthday, your dog's birthday. We're here. And, even when I'm, not at work, when I'm at the gym, I have people come up to me and they know me and we chit chat and, maybe they have a question about something or, they're having a bad day and they're not really sure what to do about something. And maybe it's police related, maybe it's not. They know that at the end of the day, I'm a person and I'm there to help them. And my gym's in my township, so they all know who I am.
Yeah. So they're never surprised to see Lyndsay in the gym. There goes Officer Taylor. There's literally there she goes doing squats again. There she goes lifting weights.
That's right. And you know what? I get a lot of respect in there, and I have a lot of friends in there. And I actually had one of my residents help me out today with putting 9 plates on each side up. So, and that's pretty cool that some of my residents go in there and we wave and we chit chat and we have a good time.
But that's about building relations with your community. Like you said before, community relations, and they probably see your IG and they probably see kind of what's going on. And I think that's important because one thing that we didn't have back in the day, and even back before my time, was any kind of media. So it was hard it took a lot more to build a relationship with others. So because of that, with social media, it's actually kind of easier to have people see what we're doing. Now, the other side is they get to see everything. So sometimes if you have a bad apple, that's going to put a stain. But if you're doing enough good things, people do understand. I think that's where we're still a little fuzzy on with law enforcement. We look at the cons of social media because we're like, well, what if someone puts a comment? Well, they're going to put a comment on something. But or if something bad happens, let's say somebody has a bad shooting. Let's just say it literally is. But they've seen over the last 5 years, you've been out in the community doing everything. You're getting the backpacks, you're doing toy drives, you're helping people build houses. The one time something bad like that happens, there's going to be a little bit of backlash. But on the other end of it, they're going to say, oh, this other 95%, this agency's been doing everything right. But like all of us, we make a mistake. So with that, do you think that would be a selling point? Like, hey, if we could push 95% of positive things we have going on, and then we're going to have the 5%, it's kind of like depositing money in the bank. Do you think that could be a selling point to chiefs or sheriffs or just the concept of social media law enforcement?
1000%. Our social media, like just our Facebook page, our residents are absolutely phenomenal. When the prisoner escape happened in Pennsylvania, we were a part of that. The outpouring of people who were calling in, supporting us, like some of them asked for me specifically, asking how I was, like what's going on, because there was a lot of turmoil and people were scared. And when times are tough and bad things are going on, the community is rallying for you, and I think that is amazing. We are so lucky that we have such amazing people in our community from all sorts of backgrounds, different religions, different everything. And they all come together to support us as one, which I think is pretty phenomenal. Because we are a lucky community where we have such a great relationship with all of our residents, the businesses that we have in, like my dog was injured earlier in the week and I had multiple people from like businesses and just around the community, like, how's Ember doing? Like, what can I do to help you? Like, it was just awesome to see. And like, I've done that for them, we're like, it's somebody's birthday and I'm like, yo, happy birthday. What's up? Like,
yeah,
it's just one of those things where, when something bad's happening and the community rallies together, or like something bad happens to one of us and all the police officers rally together, or we find out someone's having a bad time, like we all come together as one. And I think that I would rather take the 95% good with the 5% bad. There's always going to be someone who's mad or pissed off, or, their brother got arrested, or, whatever. They're not happy with how you did something. Well, why don't you come to me and say, I didn't like the way this went down, but maybe we can sit down and have a conversation and learn about it. Teach each other instead of going, well, this all like the Monday quarterbacking stuff, like something will be posted and this officer did this, and this. And everybody's on there going, well, he should have did this. Why don't you reach out to that officer and help a brother out, or ask him why he did what he did, or she, or whoever, I think instead of being so negative, like, why don't you help them out then? If they need the training, reach out. You have something to say, reach out to them. I'm not afraid to say to one of the newer people, like, hey, like, I'm not, we always say this, me and my one buddy, I am no pro cop, but maybe try it this way. Maybe try it that way, just to see, maybe you won't like it. However, none of us are a professional police officer. We're professionals, but no one's a professional cop. You'll never be one. I don't care if you're SWAT, whatever. Everybody has something to learn from everybody.
Yes.
And if you can't be humble enough to understand that, it's crazy.
Yeah. But prior to our show tonight, I was on the phone with one of my buddies. We were lieutenants about 5 years ago together, and he just got a promotion recently. And that was one of the fears he had, was that he was going to a role that he knows nothing about. Yeah. And mind you, he's been a lieutenant now for, 8 years. And he's been in law enforcement for 20. So you're right. Even if you think you know everything, you probably don't. So you got to kind of have that humble mentality to understand that there's room to grow. But at the same time, when it comes to society or community, it's in the same boat of, hey, what you think you might see may not be all the facts. So you have to have that empathy to understand that other things are going on that aren't on the front. Because I've had people ask me about, all types of things going on in law enforcement, the random things, the George Floyd, the Memphis incident, the Atlanta, and like everything you can think of. And I'm just like, I can't tell you what I would do because I wasn't all the way in that situation. I don't know what happened to that person. I mean, the Memphis thing on the video looked horrible. It looked bad. I don't know what happened to any of those guys that day, but the way it looked on the video looked bad, but I don't know what they were going through either. So I can't give them a full assessment on what it is. But like you said, that situation was a little bit more egregious in the sense of they're probably going through court stuff. So you can't go talk to them, but there's something that led to those actions. It wasn't just like hey, we're going to respond in this way. So back to going to the Monday morning quarterback, like you mentioned, you got to be able to look at all the facts to make a good decision.
Yeah, and that makes me think about, like, if I'm on a traffic stop and someone's, like, mouthing off to me, I think to myself, why is that person being that way? You know what I mean? I wonder why. And then I wonder if they ever think about their actions and how it affects me for the rest of the day or the rest of my shift.
Mm.
And I don't think anybody thinks about that. Like, if I go to a call and someone's being real nasty or, something crazy is going on, I don't think they ever wonder how, like, I'm seeing someone on their worst day. I totally get that it's probably not going to be the best interaction, but I always think to myself, I wonder if these people ever think about how they affected us. And I don't think that they do. And maybe they do. I've had people apologize to me, like that guy I told you about who was like telling me he was going to hurt me and all this other stuff. He actually came to the police station and apologized profusely to me.
Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah. And, he blamed it on the alcohol and whatever else he was doing. And I'm like, that's great. Maybe, maybe we need to think about getting some help then, but like, I wonder if, someone who's ever been nasty to me or been nasty to one of my coworkers has ever thought about how it affected us. And I don't know if people do. I always wonder that. It's a thought.
Lyndsay, you gave me a good challenge because I didn't want to pivot this hard into that one thing you're saying, but I do want to dive a little bit deeper. I know we're getting late into it. I told you I'd keep it within an hour. We're just about there, but that's interesting. So where does that conversation start on trying to help people understand how because we always talk about how we communicate with others, specifically the public, our peers, but how do we get to the conversation of how they communicate with officers? Like, how do you think, because I actually never thought about it until right now.
I don't know. I think like, especially like women in law enforcement, like I think we get a lot of flack and I think we get a lot of challenges more than men do, but men just have as much challenges as we do, but different ways.
Correct.
I think about the dudes who are like, oh yeah, you're like the hottest cop ever. Like, how do you think that makes me feel? You know what I mean? Like,
but that's not telling you anything about your skills.
Right. It's disrespectful. I think like we as professionals have to have a type of professionalism, like, and I think that, the way people treat us, they don't really ever think like, wow, I just cursed that officer out and I was really having a bad moment. And I wonder how that affected them for the rest of their shift. Like, what if I had to go to like a really bad call after that?
Yeah.
Or like you affected this person so much to where like, what if I questioned myself at this call because of your actions or something like that? Like, I would never let somebody else affect me with what I'm doing with my job. But like, females have it different. And like, sometimes I got to be a little bit more aggressive than I would like to be. But, if someone meets me at that level, I kind of have to be at that level with them to go, turn it down, dude. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't even know how we have these conversations because it goes back to law enforcement mental health and how officers need to really speak to one another. And I think that I've been really trying to build up my Instagram as more of like a law enforcement type of thing where I throw in a couple of things about myself and the coffee and the dogs and some of my personal stuff or like the tattoos that I have. And I think part of the humanizing the badge, like maybe we need to be having bigger conversations about the type of calls that were going on and the people's behavior towards us. And if they ever realize what they do to us as well as what we do to them. And instead of it being a divided thing, why aren't we worried about how everybody's being affected? Not just, us personally, but the people that we're interacting with, the dispatchers that we're talking to, the way that we're seeing other people. And like, I meet people from all walks of life, homeless people. How are, we all affecting each other? And it's just like a big, huge circle. And I think that people really need to sit back and think about, wow, was I really a jerk, or was that officer being a jerk? What did I say to make it be a bad conversation?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I don't even think twice about how people talk to me, how it affects me, until probably like an hour or two after, and I kind of have some time to think about it, and sometimes you really just can't let it bother you, but sometimes it really does, like,
Yeah, reality. Because
take
you're
a
a
toll.
person.
Yeah.
You're a human.
Yeah.
I mean, you're
Yeah.
you're
I
human.
have feelings. I have
Yeah.
feelings, and I think about the two new girls that we just hired, and I worry about them and how, their perceptions of other people and how these people are going to affect them. And, I ask them about their days when I'm coming and going, they're not on my shift, but I see one, and I bring them to the gym with me, and I try to get them into a healthy routine. Like I try to have, but I worry, like, I don't know if they know how to handle like certain stuff. Like, I can take being yelled at and screamed at, and whatever. That's fine. Some people are just upset. But, how does that affect us? Like, am I gonna go home and like it's gonna make me upset to think about, or am I just not gonna care? Or, you don't know how you're really gonna take it till later. And it's definitely a question, because a lot of officers do have a hard time dealing with certain calls, but then we don't really think about how their reactions to us are concerning as well. So it's definitely something interesting to think about.
No, you're right. And that's why as soon as you said it, I was like, huh, the little facial hair I have on my face, I can't grow it everywhere. I start scratching it because I was like, let me think about this one. Cause I think one way we do it, at least traditionally, is like what they call Citizens Academy. So that's for people that want to do it, but how do we do it to where, because we know we have, like you said, you use the term pretty good, trolls and stuff like that. How do we start letting the trolls see what we're doing? Because while they're naysayers, they're still people as well. And if we can even get them to kind of understand that we're going through things, and sometimes that comment, although they had to get it off their chest, that it's going to impact the next person. Maybe you're right. Sharing our vulnerabilities in different like medias would probably help out, because I don't think, and the uniform guards everything going on. Like it's just like an invisible shield. As soon as you put it on, it's like, okay, nothing's going on. Lyndsay's perfectly fine. She's good. There's nothing else to worry about. No matter what you say to her, she's a shell, is going to bounce off. And the uniform really doesn't do that. It doesn't block really anything. I mean, it kind of traps the heat. That's about it.
Yeah, it does.
but it doesn't really block the comments out in the way we respond as humans. So it is something for us to think about, and definitely a conversation that can be had. And I think, like you said, the social media, and I'm happy the way you show like what you're doing with your dogs, your workouts, your coffee, like all that stuff is important, because it does build that credibility as a human. Because obviously people in your township are watching. I mean, anybody can watch social media, so they're seeing all the other things you're doing. Thus, they're picturing, okay, she's just like us.
Yep.
So as we go forward and we're starting to round this out, this has been an amazing conversation, Lyndsay. Obviously, your energy's there, and I know we can probably go for another 2 or 3 hours. And your dogs have been very good. Could. Yeah, your dogs have been very good. I've been impressed. I know they're hurting right now. They want to be all over everything, because that's what loving dogs do. But if someone heard this podcast and they heard this episode and they wanted to reach you, what would be the best way for them to contact you?
I kind of keep my Facebook as like a private thing, but my Instagram is it's also private, but if you want to add me, you absolutely can, and it's at Lyndsay, Lyndsay with 6 Y's. Kind of to show my little excitedness. They can reach me there. Feel free to send me a message or reach out to me. I'm always interested in connecting with people and listening what they have to say, or you want some coffee tips or some workout tips, or I got a lot of meal prepping that I do, and it's definitely something I'm interested in. But like, I'm really interested in like trying to build a rapport with other officers. I have a couple of friends who are like from all over the country. My best friend lives in North Carolina. I met her on Instagram in a female law enforcement group. I love her dearly. I come and visit her a couple times a year. I'm actually going to see her in a couple weeks. I met her through Instagram. We hit it off. I got on a plane and I stayed at her house, and it was like I knew her my whole life.
That's
You
so
know,
cool.
and that's the greatest thing about social media is that it's so powerful. And I meet Philly cops. I meet, cops from all over the country. I got a couple of really good friends from everywhere. And, night shift kind of stinks sometimes. And, we'll chat, we'll FaceTime, or we'll talk and share stories, or, checking up on me. I'm checking up on them. How's your kid? How's your wife? How's whatever.
Mhm.
Some people, it's funny, she just texted me. She knows.
He
But like
knows.
I also meet all of my, EMS providers, all of my dispatchers. I try to be really good close friends with them. Hey, what's up? How you doing? I'll send them a good morning or a good night message, like on the MDC that we have. I try to talk to everybody, all the firefighters, thank them. I go in with them. We all are a family, and I would be more than happy to speak with anybody who wants to, whatever, first responder you are, not first responder. I'm also totally down to speak with you. Anybody who messages me, I answer. Within, I don't have a ton of followers. I'm not like that crazy with a ton of followers, but I would love to have more one day. But I'm always, interested in speaking with people for sure.
Yeah. So guys and gals, Lyndsay with 6 Ys, and she's right. There are a lot of Ys. I didn't realize it was 6 of them, but there were a
I
lot.
think
So
it's
when I
6.
saw it,
Yeah.
I was like, is this a typo? I was like, oh well.
Nope.
I said she accepted. So I was like, you know what? Let me. It works. So, but no, she's right. Definitely reach out. I can tell you guys, she is very energetic. You guys can see it. But it doesn't stop here on this podcast. Her energy resonates all through social media, and I could just tell by some of the things she's already done in her 5-year career that the energy is only going to get better and stronger and focused. So if you guys want to connect, like you said, her social media, reach out to her. She'll be more than happy to connect it anyway. And that's what it's about, guys. Once again, we're all in this battle, so to speak, together. We're all in this war together. We're all in this fight to be better together. So you don't have to do it by yourself. So Lyndsay, any final words?
I guess I would like to say, think about things. Just think about things sometimes, whether you're going to go in for shifts, you're just a regular person listening in, you're interested in law enforcement. Think about things, talk to people, think about your friends or family, loved ones, think about people's struggles before you decide to do, anything that you're doing. If you need help, reach out. I know a lot of people struggle with a lot of stuff. And I know now, after COVID, a lot of stuff's going on in the world. And if you need somebody, reach out to somebody. I'm always here, but I know a lot of cops are struggling. A lot of people are struggling in general. So, mental health is near and dear to my heart. And if you need something, feel free to reach out. There are tons of help, tons and tons.
And there's a lot of good people out there, guys, like Lyndsay, that are looking out to help each law enforcement officer. I always tell people there's so many of us that are doing it. It's just about finding somebody just in your area, or not even your area, but whatever method you need. There's social media, in person, email, text, whatever, but there's help out there. But definitely think about things like she said. Put that on the forefront of whatever you're doing, because before you decide to do something harmful, just know somebody else cares about you. Somebody else needs you. There's somebody else that's looking forward to meeting you because you can impact their lives. And when that stress builds up, because it's going to build up no matter what, just know there's more to live for, because there's always more things to do. Trust me. There's things I didn't know I would be sitting in this role. I didn't know I'd be interviewing Lyndsay, but because I believe there was always more and hope for more, that's how I got to this point in my life. But that same thing for each of you. If you're down and out, reach out. Obviously, you can always find me, but if you're looking for a different style, a different person, Lyndsay's right there. She's right there over in PA, so she can definitely assist you. And like she said, she has nationwide friends. Her best friend's in North Carolina, so obviously she doesn't mind traveling and hanging out. So keep that in mind, everybody, when you're thinking about it. So once again, guys, thank you for listening to the show. If you're watching it, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time, everything you guys do. I appreciate having Lyndsay on. She was an amazing guest, high energy the whole time. And I know we're going to have her back, and maybe we'll get some of the other women to have like a whole group podcast, and then we can just push all this content out to you guys. But make sure you guys, if you have a chance, follow her on Instagram. At least try to follow her, make the request. and trust me, she'll get back with you, especially if you have an LEO profile. She'll definitely get back. And if it's not, you might want to justify, maybe send a message like, hey, I heard you on the show. I'm not like a creep or nothing like that. So
that's right.
Just so she knows, but make sure you guys reach out. Make sure you guys do what you have to do, but take what you have in the show, share it with your friend, comment, and let me know what you guys think, because we're always looking for ways to improve as people. And we always have an open door to get better. So thank you guys. Thank you for everything you do. Be safe. You guys have a great night.
You've been listening to the LEO First Podcast. Michael has been in law enforcement since 2005. He's worked for 3 law enforcement agencies in 3 different states. He's a professional speaker who travels the country teaching about leadership development and self-awareness. And he's the author of a book called Greatness Beyond the Badge: The 3 Key Principles for Self-Awareness. It's Michael's passion to bring law enforcement members' stories to the front, so you get the real and raw take. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with Michael on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Michael Laidler, on Twitter at Michael A. Laidler, on Facebook at Michael Laidler Leadership. Send an email to michael@michaelalaidler.com and hit the website at michaelalaidler.com. See you next time on the LEO First Podcast.
Like that, I'm gonna be leaving a note. My vehicle is driving in the remote.